When pointing out another's faults, don't be too harsh. First, ask yourself whether they can bear it. Chuang Chapter 1, The Abusive Boss, A Lesson in Leadership, Empathy and Emotional Ethics. In today's corporate world, especially within hierarchical organizations, interpersonal dynamics often shape the very fabric of our work experience. While performance metrics and productivity are key, emotional intelligence and human decency define the culture we inhabit. There's an old proverb from Chuang's Tegantan that provides timeless insight. When criticizing someone's fault, don't be too harsh. Consider whether they are ready to accept it. This wisdom resonates profoundly in today's American workplace, where employee well-being, mental health, and respectful leadership are increasingly emphasized. Let me take you through a real-life workplace experience that illustrates why this ancient saying still matters today and how it may transform your understanding of leadership and moral responsibility. First, an encounter with toxic authority. At my previous job, I worked under a senior manager who was approximately 10 years older than me. On paper, he was accomplished and held the respected title of executive director. However, his behavior often strayed from what we would consider ethical or emotionally intelligent leadership. His instructions were inconsistent. What he told me to do one day would contradict what he'd said the day before. When I followed his initial direction and presented results accordingly, he publicly shamed me, saying things like, "Why did you do it like that?" in front of the entire team. At social gatherings, he would pressure me into drinking alcohol, going as far as throwing his glass and shouting, "A man who can't drink can't handle real work." That moment shattered my confidence. At the time, I believed, maybe I'm just not good enough. But with reflection, I realized his behavior wasn't accidental, it was calculated. His leadership style was based on psychological domination and emotional suppression disguised as authority. Second, emotional repercussions and cultural reflection. In the United States workplace, bullying is increasingly recognized as a form of emotional abuse. While our culture encourages assertiveness and fairness, we sometimes still allow hierarchical power structures to justify toxic behavior. The executive's actions weren't just about poor communication, they reflected deeper emotional and psychological patterns. Whether intentional or unconscious, his behavior inflicted harm. His criticisms were not offered with the intent to help me grow. They were delivered without regard for my emotional capacity to receive them. This is precisely what the proverb warns against. Third, was it incompetence or intent? So, why do such people behave this way? Are they simply incompetent, or do they act with purpose? The truth often lies somewhere in between. Despite holding an executive title, this individual exhibited a complete lack of emotional regulation, empathy, coaching ability. In essence, his title did not equate to true leadership. Fourth, the psychology behind toxic leadership. From a psychological standpoint, such behavior can stem from multiple factors. A authoritarian personality disorder. This type often sees leadership not as a role to serve, but as power to dominate. Their internal logic may resemble, "Your struggle isn't my concern. What matters is how I'm perceived." They may equate empathy with weakness and suppress others to preserve their perceived dominance. B. Empathy deficit. Some individuals come from environments, military, law enforcement, or traditional hierarchical corporations, where expressing emotion is discouraged. Over time, they lose the ability or desire to perceive others' emotional states. C. Cycle of abuse. Many who abuse were once abused themselves. If this executive had been humiliated by his own superiors, he might have internalized that behavior as normal or necessary. The result? I went through worse. This is nothing. Real professionals tough it out. Such rationalizations perpetuate emotional harm. Across generations and workplaces, fifth, self-reflection, the gift of adversity. At the time, his words and actions tore down my self-esteem. I felt as if my very identity was under attack. But in hindsight, I now see that painful chapter as one of the most formative experiences of my life. Another line from Chuang explains, Adversity and difficulty are the furnace and hammer that forge greatness. If we accept their challenge, we grow. If we reject them, we deteriorate. Indeed, I grew. Sixth, the modern American workplace. Where do we go from here? Today, leadership in the U.S. is increasingly defined not by control, but by empathy, clarity, and emotional wisdom. The old adage that tough love makes strong teams is being replaced by psychological safety, open dialogue, inclusive communication. We now understand that even a single poorly phrased criticism can undermine trust and morale, while a well-timed word of support can uplift an entire team. 7 words matter. Speak with thoughtfulness. Let me leave you with some reflection questions. Are you currently being hurt by someone in a position of power? Or are you perhaps unknowingly hurting someone through your words or tone? Words are powerful tools. They can build or destroy. Before giving feedback, ask yourself, is this person ready to hear what I'm about to say? Am I speaking with the intent to help or to dominate? This is what the ancient proverb calls us to consider. 8. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is not about having a higher title. It's about understanding people's hearts. True leadership is felt, not proclaimed. Criticize others gently. First, ask if they can receive your words. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. 9. Closing thoughts, the light from the ancients. This message is not merely an ethical guideline. It is a call to restore dignity, grace, and emotional intelligence in our interactions. It applies to every leader, every team member, and every human being. If you're struggling at work or feel lost in a toxic culture, may this wisdom be your light. Speak gently. Lead with empathy. Grow through adversity. And if this reflection brought you a moment of insight or comfort, I invite you to like, subscribe, and set notifications for future episodes, where we'll explore more timeless lessons. Coming soon, Episode 2, How to Deal with a Toxic Boss. For deeper insights from 2,300-year-old classics, reimagined for modern life, visit Channel Code J3. When pointing out another's faults, don't be too harsh. First, ask yourself whether they can bear it. Chuang How to handle a toxic boss, emotional defense through ancient wisdom. A modern interpretation of Eastern philosophy for American workplaces and leadership ethics. Words can heal or harm, choose wisely. In the timeless Chinese classic, Chuang we find this profound insight. Criticize others gently. First, ask if they can accept your words. This isn't just advice about speaking kindly. It's a moral compass for anyone in power. A harsh rebuke, even if truthful, becomes violence if the listener cannot emotionally bear it. But in real life, not all bosses are mindful, compassionate leaders. Some are what we might call toxic, driven by power, ego, and emotional volatility. Let's explore how to survive and grow when working with such personalities, using both timeless wisdom and practical modern strategies. First, set your inner compass, build emotional resilience. Toxic bosses often rely not on reason, but on emotion and dominance. Their words aren't guidance, they're condemnation. That's why you must build your own internal standard. Don't rely on their approval to measure your worth. Try self-talk like, this is their emotion, not a fair evaluation of my ability. I followed the instructions logically and accurately. This internal dialogue becomes a psychological shield. Without it, their verbal attacks can feel like blades piercing your self-worth. Second, document, everything memory fades, records don't. When instructions change, follow up in writing via email or messenger. Say things like, I completed this task based on your previous instruction. Today's directive differs from yesterday's, can we clarify? If you experience public shaming or inappropriate language, log the details. Include date, time, what was said, and who witnessed it. Use voice memos if needed. This isn't just for legal protection, it's a way to defend your emotions and stay grounded in reality. Third, use the mirror strategy. Don't clash, reflect. Directly confronting a toxic boss often backfires. Phrases like, why are you saying that to me? Can provoke more aggression. Instead, use polite questions that reflect their contradictions. I'm a bit confused. Today's instruction is different from yesterday's. What's the preferred way forward? If I misunderstood something, would you mind explaining it again? This method gently reveals inconsistencies and can lead them to self-correct or back off. Fourth, use the system leverage legal and institutional tools. Gone are the days when silent endurance was a virtue. In the U.S. and other modern systems, workplace harassment is a recognized legal issue. You are protected by workplace harassment laws, repeated verbal abuse, humiliation, and conflicting. Instructions, even if disguised as leadership, may qualify as harassment. What to do? Report the behavior to HR or external agencies, e.g., EEOC or Department of Labor. Save texts, emails, voice recordings, and journal entries. Consider legal action, civil or criminal, if it continues. Legal penalties in context, example from Korea, but principles are universal. Retaliation up to 3 years imprisonment or significant fines. Violating protection duties or confidentiality, fines imposed. If the employer is the abuser, legal and financial consequences follow. In the EU, penalties differ by state, but emotional abuse can be grounds for lawsuits, HR disciplinary action, or formal investigations. Fifth, emotional detachment. They are not the star of my life. The most powerful strategy is changing your mindset. This boss isn't the center of my life. This pain is temporary. I am maturing emotionally through this challenge. 30 years ago, people were expected to endure abusive superiors. Today, we speak up, but deeper change starts within. You must remind yourself, the power to protect my dignity lives within me. My story from broken to resilient. I've been through it. There was a time when my toxic boss's words crushed me. I felt powerless. But looking back, I see that experience as a rite of passage, one that taught me how to set boundaries and preserve my dignity. The fire didn't destroy me. It forged me. Summary: 5 ways to respond to a toxic boss. First, set your internal standards. You decide your worth. Second, document everything. Facts are your armor. Third, use the mirror strategy. Reflect, don't clash. Fourth, use formal systems, law, and HR tools, not threats. Fifth, deep emotional distance. Don't let their chaos define your identity. Closing message: be the one who knows better. Are you being hurt by someone's words at work? Are you being blamed unfairly? If so, remember this sentence. Criticize others gently. First, ask if they can bear it. Even if someone else doesn't know this wisdom, you do. You can act differently. You can break the cycle. You can lead with empathy. If this message brought you clarity or comfort, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us bring more ancient wisdom to light. And feel free to share your story in the comments below. We're here to listen. For deeper insights into timeless Eastern philosophy, reimagined for the modern world, visit J3. When pointing out another's faults, don't be too harsh. First, ask yourself whether they can bear it. Chuang跟贪功人之恶，无太言，要四气看守. And also, when teaching someone goodness, do not set the bar too high. Make sure they can follow. 教人一山无过高，当时期课从 Understanding female employees, emotional intelligence and leadership. A modern reinterpretation of Eastern wisdom for American leaders, parents, and mentors. When leadership meets empathy. In leadership, whether in the workplace, family, or community, what matters more than simply being right is being understood. 2 profound quotes from the classic Chinese text. Kegantan set the stage for this discussion. Criticize others gently. First, ask whether they can bear it. When teaching someone goodness, don't demand too much. Make sure they can follow. These 2 lines capture the heart of leadership. Communication should never exceed the listener's emotional capacity. If it does, it becomes psychological violence, even if well-intended. A real experience: 40 female team members, 1 leader. Years ago, I managed a team of 40 female employees. I vividly recall how during one-on-one conversations, even before I spoke, a few of them began to tear up. No harsh words were exchanged. Just my presence, a closed-door conversation, and suddenly tears. At first, I wondered, did I come across too harsh? Later, I understood those tears were not weakness. They were emotional releases from tension, unspoken anxiety, and the pressure of being perfect under constant social scrutiny. Why do they cry? Understanding emotional context. This isn't a matter of women being too sensitive. It's about deeper emotional structures and social conditioning. Here's why. First, different ways of processing emotions. Women are more likely to express and share emotions as part of how they process challenges. Tears are not a breakdown, they're often the beginning of healing. Second, sensitivity to relationship dynamics. Thoughts like, did I let my boss down? Or did I lose trust? Can emotionally overwhelm someone who values relational stability, especially if workplace culture is harsher and personal. Third, cultural expectations around expression. Women are generally more socially permitted to express emotions. So tears can also signal unconscious trust. It feels emotionally safe to be vulnerable here. So what should leaders do? Words matter, but how they're delivered matters even more. Even a well-meaning comment can close an emotional door, if not handled with care. So how can leaders open that door instead? Examples of emotionally attuned phrases. This conversation isn't about blame. I want us to find a way forward together. This topic might feel heavy, but I'm here to support you. If you need a moment, please take your time. I'm sorry if this came across too strong. These phrases aren't just nice. They're essential for building trust and allowing healing to begin. Common but misguided question: why are female employees so hard to manage? Someone once said to me, even just a few female staff stress me out. How did you manage 40? This question reflects not rudeness but misunderstanding. The answer isn't about tolerating difficult people. It's about emotional intelligence and understanding. The psychology behind gender-based communication. How do men and women express work stress differently? Let's look at 3 key areas. Emotion expression. Men suppress or contain feelings. Women share and express to process feelings. Stress response. Men focus on problem solving. Women seek emotional connection first, then solutions. Expectations of leadership. Men task-focused, role-centered. Women trust and relationship-centered. So when a male employee says, I have too much work, they likely want practical help. But when a female employee says, I'm really overwhelmed lately, she may not need a fix, she needs empathy. Saying you're being emotional isn't neutral, it's harmful. It tells someone your needs are invalid. Same words, different meaning, the risk of miscommunication. The same phrase, I'm struggling, can be a request for help, or an emotional disclosure, depending on the speaker. If the listener, the leader, doesn't know the difference, they can unintentionally create deeper wounds. Emotional language and logical language are not the same. As a leader, it's your job to know which one you're hearing. The role of society and organizational psychology. First, cultural pressure. Women are judged on not just performance, but appearance, tone, and demeanor. A careless comment can be the start of emotional breakdown. Second, organizational needs. Women often need not only structure and clarity, but emotional safety. Misinterpreting this as too emotional creates a cycle of misunderstanding. Third, practical phrases for emotionally intelligent leadership. 1. Emotional warm-up. Before diving into work, simply ask, how have you been lately? It opens emotional space and trust. 2. Empathy. First, logic later. Start with, that sounds tough, anyone would feel that way. Then continue. Let's try this approach together. 3. Pause when emotions rise. Say, if I sounded too serious, I apologize. Should we take a moment and continue after? Giving space is not weakness, it's leadership maturity. Conclusion, emotional leadership is the future. I wasn't able to manage 40 female employees because I was tolerant. I was able to because I didn't fear their emotions. I embraced and understood them. Female employees aren't difficult. They just require a different form of connection. And a real leader knows the difference. Final message. Let's raise a new kind of leadership. One that leads through understanding, not dominance. If this message helped you reflect or grow, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Next time, we'll explore another timeless insight from Chuang, this time about handling conflict with grace. For more wisdom translated for the modern world, visit Chuang 3. The weight of our words. In both leadership and family life, there's a fine line between encouragement and pressure. Chuang, an Eastern philosopher from over 2,300 years ago, left us with this timeless message. When guiding someone toward goodness, do not set the standard too high. Help them in a way they can follow. This is not just a moral lesson, it's a principle of emotional psychology. If we speak with ideals too far from someone's reach, we aren't inspiring them, we're crushing them. So before we say something, we must ask, is this something they can actually act on? Will this help them grow, or will it make them feel smaller? Nowhere is this more relevant than in our interactions with female employees, especially when emotions arise. Real story, the day the tears came first. Years ago, I managed a team of over 40 women. During routine one-on-one conversations, something surprising happened. Many of them cried before I even said a word. At first, I thought I'd done something wrong. Was I too intimidating, too harsh? But slowly I understood. Their tears were not weakness. They were release. Release from internalized stress. Relief in a rare moment of emotional safety. The beginning of healing after long silence. Those tears weren't a breakdown. They were a breakthrough. Why emotion doesn't mean fragility. Too often we misread emotion as instability. But emotion, especially when expressed in a safe setting, is strength in motion. Crying doesn't mean someone is too sensitive. It can mean they've been holding it together for far too long, and in that moment, your words carry enormous weight. What you say next matters. 3 phrases every emotionally intelligent leader should know. In these moments, the right words don't fix the problem, they create emotional safety. Here are 3 powerful approaches before a tough conversation. This isn't about blame. I just want us to find a solution together. That phrase lowers defenses. When introducing a sensitive topic, this might feel heavy, but I want you to know, I'm coming from a place of support. This opens emotional space. If tears begin to flow, please take your time. If my words felt too heavy, I truly apologize. This creates a safety zone for the conversation to continue. Why women cry and why it matters. Emotion is not a female problem. It's a human signal. But for many women in the workplace, tears carry unique meaning. A release after bottling up pressure, a signal that it feels safe to finally feel something. A reaction to years of navigating work while suppressing emotion. Leaders often ask, why do some female employees cry more? The better question is, what have they been holding back, and why did they finally feel safe enough to let go now? Emotionally intelligent leadership starts with listening. We don't lead people with perfect speeches. We lead by creating an environment where people feel heard. If you want to guide someone, don't use unreachable ideals or cold logic. Use your humanity. Just like Chuang said, guide them in a way they can follow. Final reflection, what a tear may be telling you. Tears don't always mean someone is weak. They might mean I finally feel safe enough to be honest. Emotion is not your enemy, it's your entry point. And that moment, if handled with care, can become the turning point in someone's growth. Subscribe to Lead with Heart. If this story helped you rethink leadership and emotion, please like this video, subscribe for more ancient wisdom applied to modern life. Turn on notifications so you won't miss future insights. Next time, we'll explore how tone, timing, and trust can transform even the most difficult conversations. For more human-centered leadership insights, inspired by 2,300 years of Eastern wisdom, visit Chuang 3. The problem with preaching morals. You've likely tried to offer sincere advice, something rooted in honesty, respect, or fairness, only to be met with defensiveness, cynicism, or even outright hostility. We should work with integrity. Let's treat each other with respect. We all share responsibility here, and yet some people seem to reject these good messages. Why? Centuries ago, Eastern philosopher Chuang warned us about this. When guiding someone toward goodness, don't aim too high. Guide them in ways they can follow. This isn't just about being nice. It's a deep truth about how people receive messages based on their emotional state, personal history, and social context. Let's explore 4 types of people who often push back against moral or ethical advice, especially in the workplace, and why. Warning 1. The emotionally defensive. These individuals see moral advice not as guidance, but as criticism. When you say, "We should be honest at work," they might hear, "You're dishonest." Why? Because their self-worth feels constantly under threat. Often shaped by past criticism or low self-esteem, they react defensively not because your message is wrong, but because it feels like an attack on their identity. Psychology: low self-esteem, trauma from past judgment, high sensitivity to moral feedback. 2. The authoritarian mindset. People with authoritarian tendencies don't accept moral advice unless it comes from someone above them. If a colleague or subordinate says, "We need to build team trust," they may respond, "Who are you to tell me that?" They view communication as a top-down structure. If it's not coming from a superior, it's not valid. Psychology: power-based thinking, status, obsession, rejection of peer-driven wisdom. 3. The cynic. Cynical people view morality as unrealistic idealism. Tell them, "We should work with mutual respect," and they'll scoff. That's not how the real world works. They're not heartless. They're just hurt. Often they've seen idealism crushed by betrayal. They use sarcasm as a shield and see virtue as naivete. Psychology: past disappointments, emotional detachment, rejection of hope-based messages. 4. The empathy challenged. Some people genuinely struggle to care about how others feel. Say, "We should consider others' emotions when we speak," and you'll get, "Why should I care? That's not my problem." This isn't just coldness. It could stem from growing up in emotionally numb environments or learning to survive by putting themselves first. Psychology: low empathy, self-centered worldview, resistance to emotional awareness. What this means for leaders, parents, and peers. If you've ever wondered why your well-intentioned advice fell flat, now you know it may not be the message, it's the receiver's internal system. The ancient wisdom of Kagantan applies here. Do not set the bar too high. Make it possible for them to follow. That means speak in a way that's relatable, not preachy. Consider their emotional defenses. Start from connection, not correction. Translate ideals into language they can actually act on. Teaching is not declaring. It's connecting. To teach goodness effectively, especially in American culture, where individuality and emotional safety are paramount, your job isn't just to deliver truth. It's to make that truth land gently so it can grow. Here's how to do that. Use I language instead of you should. Offer real-life examples, not abstract morality. Ask questions instead of giving commands. Acknowledge their strengths first. For example, I found that being honest, even in small things, helps build team trust. What do you think? This opens a door, not a wound. Don't mistake resistance for evil. People resist goodness not because they're bad. They resist because they feel exposed, unworthy, unheard, or unready. Our role is not to label them, it's to understand them. This is what makes moral leadership truly ethical. Compassion before correction. Connection before instruction. Conclusion: real morality meets people where they are. Telling people to be better doesn't work unless they feel safe enough to hear it. Teaching morality is not about pushing values. It's about translating values into practical, emotionally accessible language. That's what Chuang meant. Help them in a way they can follow. Takeaway for everyday life. Next time you want to offer advice to a coworker, child, partner, or friend, ask yourself, is this message emotionally reachable? Am I speaking to connect or just to correct? Can I offer this truth with grace? That's when advice becomes transformation. Subscribe and keep growing with us. If this message helped you see advice and leadership in a new light, please consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications for more insight on psychology, leadership, and ancient wisdom reimagined. Want more philosophy made practical? You can watch the full video in the description link or on the channel homepage. Episode 2, Why good words are rejected. The psychology of how we speak. When teaching someone goodness, don't set the bar too high. Make sure it's something they can follow. Chuang good advice, Baron Shim. Have you ever offered advice, feedback, or a kind suggestion only to be shut down? You say, we should be honest. Let's treat each other with respect. And the response is, you're being too sensitive. That's not realistic. Let's talk later. The rejection may seem irrational, but there's a deeper pattern at play. Ancient insight, modern communication. Over 2,000 years ago, Chinese philosopher Chuang warned, don't teach virtue in ways that are too high. Teach in ways people can follow. In modern terms, it means this. Your message might be right, but if it makes the listener feel judged, they'll shut down. This applies not only to teaching, but also to giving feedback, making requests, or expressing disagreement, especially in workplaces and families. Why we get emotionally rejected. Humans are not logic-first beings. We respond emotionally first and logically second. So even when your message is valid, it may be rejected for these reasons. It feels like criticism. You should try harder. Sounds like you're not doing enough. It triggers past trauma or shame. Be more organized. Sounds like you're chaotic and lazy. It removes autonomy. That won't work. Sounds like I don't respect your ideas. 4 strategies for emotionally intelligent speaking. Share, don't correct. I wouldn't do it that way. When I tried it this way, it really helped. Sounds collaborative, not condescending. Speak from your feelings, not their faults. You're being careless. I felt a little anxious when the task changed last minute. Open space for empathy instead of triggering defensiveness. Ask a permission to offer a viewpoint. Let me stop you right there, here's what I think. Would it be okay if I offered a quick thought on that? Respect builds receptivity. Offer options instead of ultimatums. That won't work. That might be tough. How about this alternative? People are more open when they feel they still have control. Everyday reframes how to say it better. Problem-solving reframe. Instead of you messed up, try from my side, it looked like this. Disagreement reframe. Instead of I totally disagree, try. That's interesting. Can I offer another perspective? Declining a suggestion. Instead of that's not going to work. Try, how would you feel about trying this instead? Why tone matters more than truth. Even moral truths, honesty, kindness, respect can feel aggressive if expressed the wrong way. Truth without tact is cruelty in disguise. You're not here to win conversations. You're here to build trust. The bridge between people isn't built on who's right. It's built on empathy, tone, and timing. Chuang was right, make truth followable. Don't raise the bar too high, make the path walkable. This ancient quote holds modern truth. People don't need perfect advice. They need approachable, relatable, respectful communication. So before you speak, ask yourself, will this feel like an attack or an invitation? Am I connecting or correcting? Because the best message is the one the other person can hear. Final thoughts, speak with heart. When you speak with humility and clarity, people respond with openness, not resistance. Speak in ways that invite rather than instruct, connect rather than correct, respect the listener's readiness. And remember, with Sorkin, even the right words fail if spoken in the wrong tone. If this message helped, you think differently about how we speak to each other. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Turn on notifications to receive more timeless wisdom for modern life. Let's grow together one conversation at a time. Want more ancient insights for modern communication? Visit Cho J3 channel.